Avatar Frontiers of Pandora may be more than we first expected. A recent trailer announced a season pass with 2 pieces of story content dropping from the game in 2024, and while some fans continue to express concern about the game being too much like Far Cry, early impressions have been generally positive. Nothing glowing or earth-shattering, but a general interest in playing the game when it fully launches. And now they are offering additive content that can be purchased ahead of time. Now, does this mean that Avatar is going to be a live service game or some kind of an ongoing game? Is this their plan for maybe a new format? Is this a format that they're actually very familiar with? This is something that is not new to games, but I wanted to discuss why this looks like something maybe bigger than just a one-off launch, like a one-and-done release. Now, I put all the good information right here at the beginning of the video so you don't have to go looking for it. And the reason that we do that is it a live show, and live shows tend to be long. So if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my shows. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has plans for more content beyond its launch. In a brand new trailer, they outline story content that will show up in 2024, and you can purchase access when you pre-order the game. They are calling this a season pass, which in times past has been used for more DLC or expansion-oriented content. Games like Borderlands have offered this at launch, and even more recently from Ubisoft, Far Cry 6 offered a season pass right at launch. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the season pass. What is it? When will it launch? And what does the pricing look like? The second thing I want to do is I want to ask the question, why call it a season pass? Like, are we in a position now where that term doesn't make much sense, right? There's battle passes. Battle passes have become quite stigmatized, and season pass almost sounds like something from games like Destiny, where there are seasons. There's seasons in Fortnite. Halo Infinite's got a great season going on right now from everything that we've heard, and people might hear seasons and think something else. They become almost synonymous with live service games, and I don't think that's what they mean with season pass, but I want to analyze using this terminology going forward. And this is related to the last thing I want to talk about. Is this a new way forward? I have recently said that ongoing games or ongoing content models, even live service games, they're going to have to evolve. When you look at the pricing of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, they want games to get ongoing content. At least that's what they're going for. If you look at the pricing, they really are considering people, or trying to get people to consider, getting on Ubisoft Plus. Now, they likely don't want to turn every game into an always online live service game where there's FOMO, and you have to have this healthy player funnel, and you have to have this steady flow of content, and people have to stay in the game all the time. That is likely not what the goal here is. All of these aren't just challenges for ongoing games, but they've become a nuisance for players. The minute they smell live service, players get very frustrated and very angry. So we could be looking at the return of a more content-focused model in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So let's just look at the season pass, okay? What will the season pass entail? Well, what we've got a couple of things that they have promise. And according to Insider Gaming, the new trailer for Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has just confirmed that the upcoming season pass will include a bonus quest at launch and 2 story packs next year. So you don't just get future content, okay? They're trying to motivate the purchase with the bonus quest when the game launches. And the story content that is going to come is going to land in the middle and the late portion of 2024. According to Insider Gaming, the first story pack, the Skybreaker, is slated for summer 2024, and then Secret of the Spires is the second story pack. That is slated for the fall of 2024. Concrete release dates have not been confirmed at this time. So this is clearly a case of planned DLC, which I have no problem with. This is commonly a criticism. People do not like planned DLC. They think that it's bad. They think that everything that's available or built at launch should be in the game at launch. What I think some people fail to understand is a lot of the times the planned DLC is not even ready when the game launches. They do something called parallel development, where there are teams actively working on that DLC right now, so they have something more to sell to you in the future. I have no problem with this unless it's clearly evident that they sort of sandbagged or pulled content from the base game. That's the only time I think you can call foul, and I don't think we've ever seen concrete evidence of anybody doing this. But they already have names for both of these story packs, which tells me this was all planned and slated. The lack of concrete dates is not shocking, as the content is probably currently in development, and the bonus quests will work within the base game, but these story packs, according to Insider Gaming, are aiming for something more. This is what they say. While the bonus quest Familiar Echoes appears to operate within the base game, each story pack is now expected to introduce completely new areas from their unique narratives. And according to Insider Gaming, the first story pack may have us interacting with characters from the first movie, and here is what they say. The Skybreaker concentrates on fresh nomadic characters, so it's notable that today's trailer mentions they will reunite with old friends. They are also setting out to attend a gathering of clans from other areas. Though it's set after the events of the first Avatar film, these new details could imply that players might encounter familiar faces from the movies. So they also seem to think that the second story is going to focus on aerial combat. That is something pretty significant in the game. I've continued to wonder why the third-person perspective was not utilized throughout the entire game. I'm not alone in that. This is actually something that came up in an interview with IGN. The game director said it was never really a consideration. When asked why the game was primarily in first person, he said, quote, "Because we want you to feel immersed. We want you to feel immersed and feel like you're really on Pandora," says Diet Diedenfeld, the game director of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and says, so it was never really a big discussion for this. Now, I get this. I get this to a degree, okay? I also think that they utilize a lot of familiar mechanics from Far Cry, because that's a first-person game as well, and that familiarity and comfort likely lended itself to the development of Avatar. Now, he went on to talk about being close to the environment. First person's the best way for you to feel that, and to be fair, the game does look really nice, which I think is a must for a game built in the world of Pandora. The environments are lush and brightly colored. It really does seem to capture what the movies look like. So the last thing I want to look at, though, before I discuss what content flow might look like, what does this mean for the future of Ubisoft titles, is I do want to look at the pricing, and I'm going to show it to you. Because the first thing to notice is the Ubisoft Plus push. It's right next to me. You can see the blue box for $14.99 a month. And you'll notice you get everything in that you also get with the most expensive version. But before we look at Ubisoft Plus, it is $40 for this season pass. You'll notice the $69.99 all the way on the far side there, and then you go up from that to the $110. So for $40, you get your season pass. Now, the bump up to the Ultimate Pack is $20 more, and that's just cosmetics and a digital art book. So if you go all the way up from the $110 to the $130, you get some extra cosmetics in that digital art book. But the push for Ubisoft Plus is something that they've been doing with recent games. Someone sent me a screenshot. They did this exact same thing with AC Mirage. And I believe this might be insights to the format going forward. Something that isn't quite live service, but you want to keep players invested. You want to keep them coming back, or you want to keep them considering your subservice, which is related to what I want to talk about next. Why are they calling this a season pass? Historically, season passes referred to a bundle of DLC or story expansion type content. You would basically buy it at launch so that whenever new content comes out, you're already securing everything they're going to do for a bundled price. But with the rise of live service games and battle passes, I kind of question the continued use of the term. Games like Destiny and Fortnite live and breathe with seasons. Halo Infinite Season 5 is going on right now and being celebrated by the community. So with the waters getting a little bit muddy about what a season is, what a season pass or what a battle pass is, I was really surprised to see the term continuing to be used. My first thought was, well, if this is a season pass, will there be more season passes? Will there be more seasons? Is it a season, or is it just you buying everything bundled? Is this related to some sort of plan going forward long term? Since Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I've continued to wonder if games would build large worlds and maps and utilize them in a long-term capacity. And with pricing pushes now promoting Ubisoft Plus alongside of buying the game at full price, I could see a lot of people being tempted by the $14.99 a month. You get everything that comes from the $130 version of the game. And the first season pass could be them testing the waters. Number one, how many people buy it? That's the question. And then how many players actually come back in the summer and the fall of next year to play this content? Just sales alone could be motivation enough for them to build a second season pass, which is related to the last thing I want to talk about. Is this a new way forward? What if we begin to see live service games without the live, right? That is something that people hate. Yes, the dreaded term. Everyone doesn't like this anymore. They're growing to loathe this, live service games. I recently speculated that the next phase of live service games would need to move away from the current trappings of the models that so many games try to implement. They would need to think more about ongoing content approaches versus needing to constantly keep people inside of the game. Most of the criticisms of live service games could be avoided. FOMO, which is fear of missing out, that's being leveraged in many games. You don't want to miss out, do you? You got to run that activity. You got to check that box. You got to be there for the event. I think some measure of FOMO is fine. If you do a special event in a game, it makes sense that you kind of have to be there for it. But once a game starts to become about the compulsion or what feels like passive coercion to leverage your engagement, well, many players might check out. The greatest challenge facing the format that is more content-focused as well as being more spread out. So if you picture in your mind, there's the live service format where they're constantly needing to give you content. This would be more of a content-focused format where the things would be spread out, more traditionally waiting 6 months or a year for DLC. I think the greatest challenge here would be loss of player attention. Sure, you can get a bunch of people to buy your season pass at launch when everybody's talking about your game and when the marketing's at an all-time high, but what happens 6 months later? You got to motivate them, right now with cool trailers. You got this extra mission in the base game at launch. It doesn't really matter if they don't touch the content when it finally shows up because this is not a multiplayer game. You don't need some healthy player funnel. But the idea here could be healthier content rhythms. You could come back to the game in the summer. You could try out the next story pack, and then the second pack arrives in quicker succession. Potentially what this could do is create a funnel of engagement that will allow for other season packs to be sold and delivered in 2025 and beyond. I don't think all ongoing content models need to focus on multiplayer or keeping players always inside your game. It's very possible that Assassin's Creed Valhalla taught Ubisoft valuable information about big games continuing to get content. The ultimate question is whether or not players would embrace this format. I even theorized that when Star Wars Outlaws showed us gameplay, they could do an ongoing content model with their game. It could potentially be very easy, depending on the game and the way that it's built. It could be easy to add planets and new stories or just new outlaws that you could play in episodic style content, since they did name it Outlaws. But once you build the world, the mechanics, and the base game, a lot of the groundwork is done. There's also the lingering question about what Ubisoft plans to do with Assassin's Creed going forward. Similar to how Call of Duty turned itself into a central COD HQ, the plan for Assassin's Creed to have AC Infinity be a central hub, sort of like an Animus for all of your Assassin's Creed games. Well, does this mean they have plans for a live service Assassin's Creed game? In the wake of AC Valhalla, it sort of makes sense. An ongoing AC game would be more in the vein of what they did with AC Valhalla. I'll continue to say that building these massive games only to offer a few DLCs or a few story packs, it just seems like wasted potential. An Avatar Frontiers of Pandora could be an initial foray into a new format. Fundamentally, it comes down to revenue. So while Avatar sounds like it's going to be more than we first expected, it may end up being just another game that launches, slams out a bunch of pre-order bonuses, and then it fades into the background of the conversation. So the question is, will it last or be just another Ubisoft game? Well, only time will tell. So let me give you my thoughts and my conclusions here. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has the potential, I think, to be a great game based on a movie. We've been getting some good games based on movie content lately. Hogwarts Legacy proved it could be done. Even Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor showed that you could take original stories and put them in an existing universe and have them be great and have them highly praised. The comparisons to Far Cry make it tough for this game, I think. It may make it tough for this game to get off the grounds, no pun intended, but if they can nail the feel of Pandora and offer a great single-player experience, they may have an IP that they could invest in long-term. Now, the second thing I want to say is, I don't want to read too much into the season pass language given the term's history, but it does look like an interesting content rhythm to say the least. Roughly 6 months later, getting story and then a shorter window for the next pack. That kind of feels like a great way to kickstart regular content, but that doesn't mean it needs to be a live service or an online game. The ongoing game format hasn't been perfected or written in stone just yet. There are likely new ways to keep big games in front of people for longer periods of time without needing to lean on FOMO, battle passes, or other tiresome practices. My conclusion is this. Ubisoft tends to get a bad rap, and while some of it is deserved, I think it is often overstated. They have a lot of great IP in their catalog, and AC Mirage seemed to get fairly positive responses. It's in third place for the previous month, for October. It's in third place for total sales, behind Spider-Man and Super Mario Brothers. That's a pretty big deal. That's a big piece of property. That game did well commercially. So while I'm looking forward to Star Wars Outlaws more than Avatar Frontiers of Pandora could be a great first step into creating a bridge between the Far Cry format and the ongoing format. Almost like a hybrid between Far Cry and AC Valhalla. Whatever their plans for Avatar, it's clear they don't just plan to launch the game and that's sort of the end of it. And with an IP this big, that's not surprising. What could be surprising is if Ubisoft manages to chart a new path for ongoing games. With Assassin's Creed Valhalla and The Division in their back pocket, they may just have a new playbook for the future. And that's the show open. Thank you guys so much for being here. This one caught my attention. This caught my attention because I thought, what on earth would they be doing a season pass inside of Avatar for? Like, what's the goal here? Now, again, I don't think this is indicating some sort of live service game, but it does indicate they have plans for ongoing content. You know, they are trying to motivate those pre-orders up front. They're also trying to motivate people to get on to UB Plus. I mean, $15 a month and you get the $130 version of the game. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, make sure you guys are doing all the things, man. Smash the like button. Han shot first, and so did you. Thank you so much. Joker Quinn gifts a member, and I appreciate that. We are at about, I need to check the member count. We're in like the 3,100 range, and if we hit 3,500, you guys can make me do the steak with ketchup one more time. It's been a while since we've done that, about a year, I think, or more, since we have done that. So if you are new and you've never been here before, this is Reforge Gaming, a daily talk show where we kind of break down latest gaming news and discuss it. Yes, we still are at 3,100 members. So you guys are right there holding on to 3,100. And you guys can become a member on your own. You can do that for $5 a month. Sample the members' content if you like it. We have higher thresholds and more content as well. We do a daily writers room segment, and we also do a weekly VIP segment. But you can also just smash that like button, hit subscribe. That's totally free. Those increase the likelihood of you getting a gifted membership. There's very generous people here, so consider doing that. And I would love to know what you guys think about this. Do you think there is some sort of a new push for ongoing content? Are we potentially seeing that with games like this, right? Are we potentially seeing this idea that, hey, we are going to be seeing now more and more games not doing just a single launch. There's going to be this ongoing setup of Here you go. There's a lot to do here. Yeah, Assassin's Creed Mirage was in third place behind Marvel Spider-Man and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, above Madden and EA Sports Football Club and Mortal Kombat. That's a lot of games. What's crazy is Hogwarts Legacy was in the 10th spot, even still. That's crazy. It's also crazy that Marvel Spider-Man is in fourth place for the year after only being out for a month. That's absolutely bonkers. Thanks, Reforge. I appreciate that. Thank you. I no longer get noties for Writer's Room, and I can't find them anywhere on your page for past ones for the last month, and I'm trying to figure out why. We stopped sending noties for them because we were sending you so many notifications. So you should get, it should be right there on the members only playlist on my channel. All you got to do is scroll down, and there's a members only playlist that you should be able to see as a member. I think this pricing is very good for a push to Ubisoft Plus, and Avatar is a big enough name to probably bring people into the subscription. Yeah, I think the thing to consider is that pricing. Like, if you really look at this, like here, let me give you guys a better look at this. Let me just expand it up. All right, let me just expand it up, and I'll do this. I'll go down here. All right. Like, if you really look at this, they're giving you the $130 version of the game for the $15 a month. Now, obviously, people might consider signing up and canceling. Now, their hope is that you wouldn't do that. You would sign up and you would get all of the things, or you would see all of the games, and, you know, then you would keep it or whatever. But I think more and more companies are going to not just try to do subscription service. I think they're going to try to do ongoing content models. Again, I'm not talking about live service, but I'm telling you, the way that they treated AC Valhalla, I could see that being a format going forward where they say, look, man, there are so many things we can do with the game when it's this big. When we create a world that is this large, why walk away from it? You know, I mean, they spend 4 or 5 years if it's fast, 5 or 6 years if it's a better dev cycle, 5 or 6 years developing this massive world, and then they market it like crazy, and then you sell a bunch, and then that's it. Time to walk away and do another one. I have members recap. Are you rolling into Writer's Room after that? I am. Yes. Yeah, we're doing that. That's exactly what we do. We go from, let me double check and make sure that the Writer's Room is hitting the playlist. And it is. When I look at the members only playlist, I see recap, Writer's Room, recap, Writer's Room. It's a pretty steady rhythm. So did you bump down from Writer's Room and not realize it? I'm not sure. Subscriptions on top of subscriptions on top of subscriptions. It's too much. I do think we're going to hit a subscription bubble, right? We're seeing even some of the subscription services already, they're having to combine. You know, Hulu and Disney are going to be combined as of March of next year, I believe. And in my mind, it's like you are going to have to start to be more frugal as a consumer, but I also think these companies are going to have to start to think about the fact that, like, the subscriptions become white noise. AC Valhalla has it cooked in, and so does The Division, and recently the Crew Motorfest, and now Avatar. It is the future for Ubisoft and their releases, says Detective Seeds. So in your mind, Detective Seeds, where do you think the live service Assassin's Creed lands? Like, where does that land? You know, that's my question. Is, do they have plans for an actual live service game? Or is the future going to be more of a question of, nah, man, we're just gonna do a basic game. You know, we're just gonna do a basic game. We're gonna launch some DLC, launch some expansions. We're not gonna do this online thing. We're not gonna do this live service thing, because there were many people that thought we were going to see a live service Assassin's Creed after Valhalla. What's good, Brap? That and the price increase is getting crazy too. I don't think the price increase is a problem. I don't think going up to $70 is an issue. I know people initially expressed frustrations about that, but virtually every other form of entertainment has gotten more expensive for the last 20 years, and video games haven't budged. I bought games 20 and 30 years ago for more money back then because of inflation. It was way more expensive to drop $60 or $50, sometimes $70 on a video game back then. Cartridges, shipping, that doesn't matter. The consumer was spending more money on games that didn't last nearly as long as the games we have today. I don't have an issue with that. I don't. That to me is such a non-issue in the grand scheme of gaming and bad practices, good practices, whatever. I do not at all think that is an issue. This is why I'm so thankful I don't have to pay to play online. If you factor in inflation, video games are cheaper than they should be. Right, in the grand scheme of things, I actually don't think pricing is an issue. I think what you're running into, though, is when people look at something that is priced like this. You can't see behind me. Hang on, let me move myself to the other side. Okay, so, $70 isn't really an issue. And I don't think it's a big issue either for them to say, oh, for another $40, you can get two story packs next year. Okay, I think that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with any of this. My speculation is that this is the new format going forward. You're going to see really, really big games built, and then they're going to keep adding content to them. I think the question is, do we get more than those 2 story packs inside of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Do we get more? Because that latest trailer, it's like, okay, I can buy the season pass. You guys are going to deliver some DLC next year. Is that designed to be a continued thing, or is it not? Is it just like, nope, that's all we got, and then they're done with Avatar? They just walk away from the game entirely. How often would they be releasing content to ask for another 70? Quarterly, semi-annually, or yearly? That's just it, though. I wouldn't envision them asking for another 70. I would envision them asking for another $40. You're basically paying $40 for content in Avatar next year, 2 story packs. And at the end of that year, I could see them saying, hey, we have another season pass coming. We have 2 more story coming next year, and you can buy them for $40. I can't support that pricing up front for a game I can't be guaranteed is coming. Don't trust them to deliver. What do you mean it's not guaranteed to be coming? Are you talking about the story content's not guaranteed to be coming? Or are you saying that the actual game itself might not be coming? What are you actually saying, Eugene? I'm not understanding your point. Sven says, I think this is taking the old school season pass approach. I think what's being offered is what the additional story content will be. Do you think there's nothing after that, Sven? That would be my question. Is there absolutely nothing more? This is it, and then they're done. Detective Seed says, I think they will release them under the $30 to $40 roof, and then bam, you will have continuous access to all of their future content coming. Have you seen their Skull and Bones issues? I don't think Skull and Bones is indicative of what Ubisoft creates, though. If you're talking about Skull and Bones, that's completely different. I'm talking about Avatar. I mean, AC Mirage just charted. AC Mirage just charted. I don't think Skull and Bones is indicative of Ubisoft's track record. AC Origins did great. Odyssey did great. Valhalla did great. That franchise is doing just fine. AC's doing just fine. Avatar is building on the Far Cry format. I think that's fair to say. And the last couple Far Cries, I don't know how well Far Cry 6 did, but I felt like Far Cry 5 did well. I liked Far Cry 3, 4, and 5. I didn't get a chance to play 6. I wanted to play it co-op with my wife, but it wasn't genuine co-op. It was just like a companion. I would love genuine co-op in a game like Far Cry 6 where 2 people have 2 skill trees and 2, loot pools. Derek says, I was barely into Avatar 10 years ago when it was cool. Ubi currently has 11 Assassin's Creed games planned for the future. I think the Mirage was an outlier, and the rest will be Odyssey, Valhalla size, and they will release episodic content within the worlds. I actually don't think you're correct on that, Detective Seeds, in only one way. I think you're correct in everything else. I think Mirage was proof of concept. I think they're going to continue doing AC games in that format. The commercial success of Mirage is too big. It is way too big to ignore. I cannot see them not doing another one. There's no way. Absolutely no way. It's in third place behind Spider-Man and Super Mario Brothers. Right? Oh, sorry. I'm muted in Discord. Sorry about that. I had a lot going on today. It was the first day that I used the teleprompter, so I wasn't in my normal habitat. I don't know what it was. You don't know what it was about 6. 6 is a different style. Well, then they did that other one, too. They did the Far Cry. All the artwork had, like, the 2 women on the front of it. I don't even remember what that one was about. Eugene says, I'm not talking quality. I'm talking about the ability to deliver content as promised, when promised. Division burned me on them being able to do that as well. I mean, I could see you not having confidence in the ongoing or the future content based on what happened with the Division. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't expect anybody to believe that the story content's going to be great. I would imagine that it is coming. Lono put a new toy in his cage. Yeah, New Dawn. Did New Dawn do well? I didn't pay any attention to New Dawn. I don't even know if people liked it. I don't know how it did. Lono, isn't Assassin's Creed Infinity more of a factor in the Mirage thing? Presumable AC Infinity will be a platform and then Mirage-sized games attached to it. Well, AC Infinity is going to be a central hub for Assassin's Creed. Kind of like now when you boot up Call of Duty, it's the Call of Duty HQ. I told everybody that's what was going on when Modern Warfare 2 launched last year. I said, look up in the corner. It says Call of Duty HQ or COD HQ. I said, that's what they're doing. They're creating a central hub. Everything will load out of this. AC Infinity is the exact same idea. And I think you're right. Yes, they could throw in Mirage-sized games in there with regularity. Mirage did really, really well. I don't think they're going to stop doing games of that size. Yeah, I agree with what Detective Seeds is saying. I don't know about Hexe, but I think Assassin's Creed Red will be huge, yes. They're going to take you to feudal Japan. It's going to be massive. I don't know if it's going to be live service, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be the return to the big game, the big format. That's what I think. All I'm saying is that there's no way in heck I'm prepaying Ubi for future content. Yeah, I could understand that. Guys, you like this shirt? I don't think I've worn this one before. I'm sitting back a little bit farther in the stream so you can see a little bit more of the shirts now. With the way the teleprompter's set, I have to sit back a teeny bit more just for good framing. And you get to see more of the shirts. So this is another one from Into the AM. This is not a stream sponsored by them, but I'm constantly wearing their shirts. Make sure and use code LONO or go to intotheam.com/Lono. You can stack my code on top of the crazy sales they're having right now, and the sales end on the 17th. I believe the 17th is the last day. Red is next. Yeah, Assassin's Creed Red will be next. Yeah. I may buy Avatar, but no way am I paying for future content. Yeah, I think Avatar looks... It actually has my attention more than I thought it would. And I honestly think it's because of the things people are saying about it being familiar or similar to Far Cry. Another gifted member from Ula Tech. You guys are at 3,100 members right now. If you can hit 3,500, you're going to want to do it before this week. I will be out of town next week for the holiday, so no streams next week. I can't even guarantee there will be uploads next week. I may just take the entire week off. Front-loading and pre-recording for that is so hard. And when I'm out of town, generally, we can't cover things as they happen. So it's extremely hard to pick topics that'll be like, yep, people are going to care about this next week. That's really, really difficult. I cannot guarantee there'll be uploads next week. We are trying to plot out and plan things that'll be there. And we got some more members coming in. One coming from Patrick Hugh, one coming from Stone Spire. Taking us to 4 members on the day already. You guys could easily do this. You could easily get to 3,500. And if you do, I have to reverse sear a ribeye, which is my favorite way to prepare a ribeye, but then I have to ruin it with ketchup. We did this like a year ago. I don't know why you guys like to do this to me, but that's what people suggested. So that's what we're going to be doing if you guys can do it. Come on, Lonostradamus, you can do it. Yeah, that's difficult. That's difficult to do. Even as good as I am at that, I can't do that. 18 months from Detective Seeds, and it's a VIP. Have a great break with your family next week. I appreciate that. Enjoy the time off. Thank you. Enjoy the vacation. I appreciate that. Will this new strategy make them abandon the old method of second wind? Do you think that they'll also do an end-of-the-year edition by 2024, 2025, where you can get all of the expansions of the game for $70? This is what they would do, Shelly. If you own Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, let's say they're going to do a season pass number 2, and it's slated for 2025. What they would do is they would give existing customers, you could buy that for $40. Anybody who did not presently own Avatar Frontiers of Pandora at that time could spend $70 and get everything up to that point bundled, and then probably also the future content. You'd basically allow them to buy in at $70, and then they would get everything up to that point as well as the future content. You've got to apply a fairly... My Bluetooth earbuds in my pocket. I was like, what is that? You would have to apply a fairly good discount at that point, I would think. If the game's been out for over a year, I don't think you can be charging full price. That you're not going to get anybody to buy at that point. If they don't, I'm talking about the people that don't own the game. They're not going to buy the game at full price at that point in time. Maybe best not to tell people more content is coming. Why? In what way, Eugene? Why would that be bad? I buy a game, I just want to play it and be done with it after so many hours, depending on the game. Well, see, and that gets at one of the things I said that would be difficult about this is because once you lose the attention of the player, it's extremely hard to get it back. It's really, really hard to get the attention of the player back because you're dealing with really, really short attention spans. You're dealing with so many games coming out. So let's say they get 20% of the people that buy Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Let's say 20% buy the season pass. It's probably way higher than that. It's probably like a 30 or a 40%. But let's just say 20%. 2 out of 10 people decide, yep, I want that. And fast forward into the middle of next year when the first story pack comes out. The question is, how many people play it? How many people even remember that they bought it? Do you know what I mean? Are you sitting around waiting for that DLC? I mean, if you're not actively playing the game or paying attention. Now, you may get like a little tweet in your feed or a YouTube video from somebody you follow, or maybe a little ching-a-ring on your console. It's like, hey, that content's coming or whatever. I don't know how they would do that. But that would be my thought is, how do you keep people's attention? If I take a break from your game for that long, dude, I'm not going to remember. Oh yeah, I bought a season pass for that. Do you see what I'm saying? I think that's one of the reasons why so many companies lean towards live service, because it's like, nope, got to keep them in the game, got to keep their attention, got to keep them coming back. You got to leverage FOMO, you got to leverage this, you got to leverage that. Can the new format work in the hyper speedy rhythms of today's digital age? I just don't know. I agree with that sentiment. I absolutely love Ghost of Tsushima, but if a DLC dropped right now, I'm not sure I'd put down my other games and jump back in. I'm not sure why you're speaking such utter nonsense, because everybody would drop everything they're doing to play Ghost of Tsushima DLC because the game's so good. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I finally went back and finished everything. I was finishing out the map. I was rounding out some of the side quests and small quests in Ikishima. I was so glad, to have time to do that. It's like little 45-minute stints, you can get a lot done in a game like that. Eugene says, because now I may just wait until it's all released and can get it on sale. I would hazard a guess that people that think like that, Eugene, are in the minority. Anybody that was considering Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is not going to say, well, I'm going to wait an entire year because I might be able to save $30. Now, you might say that because you have a crazy backlog. You've got all these games. You're like, yeah, I could take it or leave it. I could wait to play Avatar, right? I would hazard a guess that the average consumer is just like, no, I'm going to buy all this right now. I don't want to miss. Give me the most expensive version is what a lot of people are likely going to say. Happy PlayStation Portal Day. Yo, what's good, Henry Heck? Yeah, I was getting a little nervous. I was like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, everybody got their shipping alerts. You know, mine will be here today. I'm really pumped to try it out. I'm really pumped that it's coming right before a trip. So I'll be able to really try it out. I'll be able to take it to another state and see how well it works. Maybe it's because I'm currently in my first playthrough of Sekiro. Yeah, maybe. Apparently, I paid for something extra in Starfield that didn't age well. What do you mean? Oh yeah. I guess it didn't age well if you're not playing. If you're playing, yeah, there's plans DLC for Starfield. I've not seen anything said about it. Maybe they'll do like a trailer or something for it at the Game Awards. I don't know. It's not an actual 100 tier battle pass. It's just DLC. Well, and see, that's why do you guys think I'm right on this? Why on earth are we still using the word season pass? Because I know that traditionally it's totally fine to call it that. It's totally fine to say this is a season pass. Borderlands did it. Tons of old games did it. And season pass literally referred to a bunch of expansion level content. But now it's like, do you really want to call it that? Why don't you call it a story pass? Why don't you call it a DLC pass? Why don't you call it something else? Season doesn't imply, but it's attached to a lot of other things right now. It's like, I mean, dude, Halo's doing seasons, Fortnite's doing seasons, Destiny's doing seasons. You're taking your PS5 with you? So I have 2 PS5s. I will take one with me because I want to show my nephews like the PSVR 2 and some of the new games. But I'm going to leave one of my PS5s back here, and I'm going to leave it in sleep mode or standby mode or whatever the heck it's called. I almost never use that mode, so I don't know what it's called. Standby, I think. I'm going to leave it in that, and I'm going to leave it plugged into the internet. And I'm going to try my PlayStation Portal in northeastern Ohio. And my PlayStation 5 is going to be all the way back here in Kentucky, plugged in, hard-lined. Because we're seeing great videos, and then I saw a video this morning that looked really bad, and I was like, okay, we need more details, though. Because the guy was like, here's a speed test. My home internet's fast. And it's like, your home internet has nothing to do with your Wi-Fi. That's not it. Rest mode, thank you. I don't use it. I was like, I don't use rest modes. I don't know what it's called. I always just power it off. But I've seen videos that look really, really good of the Portal, and then I saw that guy's video this morning of Forbidden West, and it looked really bad, and it was like, okay, is your PlayStation 5 hardwired in? My PlayStation 5 always jumps on Wi-Fi. Even when a LAN cable's plugged into it, it'll jump on Wi-Fi instead. So I went in and said, forget network, because I got so tired of that. It's like, I connected them to the Wi-Fi once because I just couldn't be bothered to get up and make sure the cables were properly run. I was like, just put them on the Wi-Fi for now. And it would always grab Wi-Fi, even when the LAN cable is plugged in. So it's like, if the guy's not plugged in hardwired, if the PlayStation 5's on Wi-Fi, if the PlayStation 5 doesn't have good signal to the Wi-Fi, those are all things that could be leading to the lag that we saw in the clip. I saw a guy using his on a mobile hotspot, and he had better results than that guy in his house. I'm like, there's something going on here. I don't think, yes, it's connection dependent. Yes, the PlayStation Portal can have bad experiences. Any device that's remote playing can have a bad experience. But it was like, there was a guy sitting on a park bench, and it was running better using his mobile hotspot than the guy that was in his home. And I'm like, there's something going on with your Wi-Fi, bro. And again, I would check the PlayStation 5. You know, you got your PlayStation 5 down in the den, and you think it's hardwired and it's over Wi-Fi, and it doesn't have a good signal to your router. That's going to cause those issues. It doesn't have good signal. So I'm going to test it out. I'm going to try and record some vids and let you guys see that. You guys will probably have to follow me on Twitter for that. I may post a video once I get back on what I think. We may do a video tomorrow as well on my preliminary findings and what I think. Swoozy with a VIP, welcome back in. Guys, we are about 45 minutes into the stream. Do me a favor and smash that like button. We almost have 200 likes. Let's keep it going. Maybe consider gifting a member. You could become a member. You don't got to sit around and wait for people to gift. You can become a member all on your own. But if you can't afford a membership right now, people are super generous. You're very likely to get one. When this hits 25, I give 5 back. You might even get one from me. He had a terrible home network. Internet speed has nothing to do with in-home connectivity. Yeah, like when he showed his speed test, I was like, your speed doesn't matter, dude. It'll matter if you leave the home. So he showed his speed, and I was like, that doesn't matter. Your up and down don't matter. You're connected through the home network. It's bypassing the internet. Like, okay. Also, you have 2 internet connections in the home, or are you not actually using your home network? Like, if my AT&T was plugged into my PlayStation 5 and then my Portal was connected to my Spectrum, I'm not using my home network at that point. I'm using the internet, and the connections may vary. You might have a bad experience. Cloud can do the same thing. I've always said the biggest barrier for cloud gaming is infrastructure. Internet infrastructure is our biggest barrier to having a good experience remotely. Yeah, you got to go into the PlayStation and tell it to just use the LAN cable. I got so tired of doing that, I just told it, forget this network, so it never grabs Wi-Fi. I'm like, it was so annoying. Yo, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. The Portal will be here today, and I'll let you guys know what I think. We can't talk about that right now, though. We're getting off on a side topic. We can't talk about that. We got to talk about the topic at hand. All right, let me throw out a discussion question for you. How likely are you to play content that you paid for almost a year ahead of time in a single player game like this? Like, how likely are you to play that content? Because I really consider the window of time and the window of attention being one of the primary problems here. Like, gamers will complain about live service games, but we're also extremely short attention span people. 5 gifted members from Rob V. Thank you so much, Rob. Rob's been dropping 5 bombs pretty consistently lately. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate that. If you guys just got a gifted member from Rob V, be sure to say thank you to him. If you can afford your own membership and you didn't need that gifted membership, pay it forward. You can gift a single membership to somebody else. You don't have to do the big member bombs. Creature says, hit and miss. I buy games and forget that I bought them sometimes. Not likely. Zero chance. See? You guys see? Do you see what we're saying here? RVD? Wait, RVD. Why are people saying... Nick said RVD and Brap said RVD. Why are we saying this? What's that stand for? Story expansions are always a must play. 100% I play when No Man's Sky has an update. Love the content, man. Thank you, Rob. I'm likely to play if the base game is good or at least decent. If I've already paid for the extra content. Sometimes I don't, though. Rob Van Dam? Oh, Rob V. I was like, what in the world? I'm not familiar with that. I know Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't know Rob Van Dam. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm one of those people that buy the most expensive one, and I almost never play the stuff I paid for early. I forget or I get caught on the next game. Okay, so the reason I asked that question and the point that I'm making here is our own short attention spans are part of the problem. Now, I'm not blaming you. Okay, oh, it's a wrestler. Oh, yeah, sorry. The only 3-letter wrestler that I know is HBK, okay? The Heartbreak Kid. I don't... Or Triple H. There's 3 letters. But yeah. I don't know RVD. I apologize to all the wrestling fans out there, okay? I stopped dressing up and pretending to fight, people in my backyard when I was like 7, so... I'm kidding. Kind of not. Anyways, half the people in the stream leave. They're like, this guy just disrespected wrestling. It's real. I have a confession. I've never read a digital art book, not once. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Nobody. That's different, though. Now, hang on. That's different. I'm not saying have you ever bought a digital art book or a cosmetic in pre-order and not used it. That's completely separate, okay? That's separate. What I'm saying is If you buy content and it comes out like 9 months later, how likely are you to play that? And a lot of you are like, not very likely. I'll forget that I paid for it. Okay. Now track with me here. I think that's part of the issue, is that our short attention spans, these game companies are trying to capture and keep your attention. And one way they try to do this is with really, really annoying live service formats, whether it's FOMO, fear of missing out, a battle pass, a live event, something where if you miss it, you can't get it, you feel like you've been left out. So I'm not saying that you should change. What I'm saying is some of this is at an instinctive level or just a natural level. We are just naturally very easy to distract. We're extremely easy to distract. We all laugh at the meme of the dog that's like, squirrel. Like, we all make fun of that, and we'll say, that's what it's like to have like ADHD or ADD. But at some level, we all have that in us where 9 months from now, you're not thinking, bro, I can't wait for that Avatar story content to come out. You've forgotten about it. You've moved on. I mean, can you be blamed for that? There's so many games coming out. Just this year alone, you're like, you barely get started in a game and you feel like something else comes out. You're not even done with the game. You're maybe halfway through and you feel like something else comes out. That's what these games are competing against. They're competing against, the goldfish brain of the world, but they're also competing against all the other things garnering for your attention. Now, I have said that I believe the path forward for a lot of live service games is to abandon the notion that you need to keep people in the game all of the time. If you go more content driven and you go more spread out, I think you could win. And here's why. The content substance could be significantly better. So there could be more of an organic response. Hey man, did you play that content? No, I forgot all about it. Dude, it's really good. Yeah, man. We had to wait 6 months for it. We had to wait 9 months for it. But it's really, really good. The actual value of the content could go up and then have a more organic and more natural response of, dude, you got to play this new content. You've got to play this new expansion. You've got to play this new DLC season, this whatever. I don't think companies want to do that. I think they know the statistics and they say that's too risky. The minute you have somebody disengage with your game for a week, it's the likelihood of them coming back goes down. Once they've disengaged with your game for a month, the likelihood of them coming back to your game goes down even more. Every week, every day, every month that passes, it's probably way less likely statistically that you will go back to that game. Unless companies chart a new path where it's like, no, it's worth it to go back. The content's really good. I bought Baldur's Gate 3 Deluxe Edition, have only done the opening ship part, and I bought it day one. Just haven't had the time to play despite really wanting to, and I keep buying new games. Yeah, this is a trope and a meme in the world of people who love books. I have on the other side of this wall over here, I have in my mind, I'm trying to picture them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. We'll say 5. I have 5 bookshelves, floor to ceiling, full of books. I would say 75% of them I have not read. Some of that's unfair because some of them are like 10-book series or commentaries that you don't just sit down and read through. But still, 75% of them I have not read. And I'll continue to buy new books. I just got some birthday money and some gift cards on Amazon, and I immediately went to my wish list and I bought through a bunch of books that had been recommended to me. And so, because of this, video games get into a similar category. It's like you feel like, oh, I've got to get the next one. I can't miss out on this game, right? I can't not buy that game. And then your backlog gets bigger and bigger and bigger. My backlog is absurd. It's absurd. Some of that is season of life. It's a season of life. Just this week alone, what day is it? I don't even know what day of the week it is. It's Wednesday. Just this week alone, I have had dinner with my kiddos after like 7:30 in the evening. That's nuts. Hilly, you're reading that? That is such a good book, dude. He's my favorite. I just finished his biography. Oh my gosh, that's such a good book. I just want to change course right now. You know, I wish I had a different kind of, well, that's wishful thinking, but man, I wish I had a platform to talk about that kind of stuff. Anyway, the point I'm making is this. Have you read Think and Grow Rich? I have not. Thank you for the $20 super chat tip, super googly. I appreciate that. Lono reads as many books as he finishes games. I actually read way more than I finish games. I've been reading a lot lately. I have. I've been reading a lot more and listening to audiobooks a lot more. It really can change your mental state. It really can. Just disconnecting from nonsense on Twitter and just like bathing my brain in richness. What was that? Maybe that was a flicker. Wow, super is super. Do you think the price increase of games has made it more likely for people to buy the deluxe editions? I don't know, Rob. I don't know. I mean, if you're like me, this is terrible, but I'm just going to be transparent with you. Do you do the thing where you're like holding the product in your hand and you've convinced yourself to spend, let's say you've convinced yourself to spend $150, and then you're like, well, I'm already spending $150. What's another $20 at this point? Do you do that? I do that. I so do that. I am terrible. I am terrible. That's why I don't buy things for myself. I don't. I buy things for my kids. I did that with my son's bike. I was like, well, we're spending this much money at this point. What's another $30, you know? Abe, with a gifted member, rounds us out to 10. Thank you so much, Abe. Appreciate that. Getting us about halfway to the first 25. You guys were at 3,100 members. I believe you can hit 3,500 this week. I know you can do it if you want that steak with ketchup. You guys are going to have to push hard. Deep down, I don't want you to hit it because it's such a waste. It's such a waste. And I'm supposed to eat less red meat. Okay? My cholesterol's not high, but it's getting there. And I'm supposed to eat less red meat, so... Imagine if Lono talked about books, the Kindle crowd would be in here bashing paper. That's right. But to answer your question, Rob, I do wonder if people are like, well, I'm already spending $70. I might as well spend $110. Do you know? Like, I wonder if psychologically it is getting more passive acquiescence from the consumer to say, I mean, I'm already spending close to $100 anyway. So, you know, 109 is not a big jump. You know, $70, that's pretty expensive. It's pretty expensive. Games aren't cheap. I might as well buy all the stuff. You're supposed to eat less red meat. Then why don't you cook it until there's no red in it? Murph, there are times where I wish technology existed to slap people through the internet. And this is one of those times. I would write a check. I would write a pretty lengthy check with a lot of zeros to slap you for saying that. Like a channel called Lono's Library. Don't you tempt me. We made that mistake before by convoluting the brand, but that doesn't necessarily do that. Don't you do that. Don't you do that to me. Don't. I've got stacks and stacks of books and ideas and outlines and topics and things that are all like just humming in my brain. And I'm like, got to talk about video games instead. Video games instead, dudes. It's getting to the stage where if you don't buy the premium or the deluxe edition, you feel like you're not really treating yourself. Yeah, I wonder, too, if there is that sort of latent FOMO where you see this and you feel like you're buying an inferior product. right? You see gold, you see ultimate, and you're like, yeah, I guess I'll just take the standard. You know, why don't they just call the $70 one trash? You know, we got the trash edition for all you brokies out there. Well, then we got the gold edition. Yeah, dude, everybody likes gold. Then we have the ultimate edition. And you're like, well, certainly I don't want to buy the trash edition. That would be, I don't want to be the guy that's buying the trash edition. You know, are we internalizing any of that? Like, I wonder. You're like, but I won't have all of it. I won't have everything. I'll have just the basic version. I'll be a basic... Who commented that? Who commented what? I have to disagree. I will never spend more than £60 on a game. All the games this year, I was most excited and looking forward to Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Kappa. Here's what I think is going to happen with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Let me make a prediction. I think it's going to land in the low 80s score-wise. Its Metacritic will probably be 82, 83, right? I don't think it's going to dip out of the 80s unless it's genuinely just like bad. Everything we've heard from the previews, I'm like, okay, you can usually gauge where you think a game's going to land. I'm like, okay, low 80s. That's not terrible, right? But I think this is going to be one of those games where you'll see a lot of consumers say, I don't know, man, that game really surprised me. I didn't think I was going to like it at all. I do. I think it's going to surprise people. Because I think what's going to happen is, and this happened with a lot of people, I feel like this happened with Hogwarts Legacy. I feel like a lot of people went in expecting movie game, probably going to be pretty thin, probably going to be not that great, and then they were like, oh my gosh, this game is way better than I expected. I think Far Cry is going to be not that extreme, but I think it's going to be similar. I think people are going to go into... I said Far Cry because it's in the chat. Dadgummit. I think people are going to go into Avatar, and I think they're going to have a similar experience. Not as extreme, but I do think there are going to be people that play Avatar, and they're like, that really surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be very good. It was a lot better than I expected. On Lono Library also, read books, and people could play that in the background. Yeah, you can't just read books. You're going to get into copyright issues. I've always wanted to showcase my voice acting with Redwall. I think you're allowed to sample books, but you can't just like sit down and like read a book. You could read books that are public domain. I believe Patrick Stewart did that with A Christmas Carol. I believe that book is now considered public domain because it's so old. It doesn't have to be just be old. It has to be old and not part of a trust. Copyright guys can weigh in. But I'm fairly certain, yeah, you can't just like sit down and be like, all right, guys. Because you're basically creating an audio version of the book, and that gets into you infringing on their copyright. You can read samples and react, though. You can read quotes or like all of or part of a page and then react to it. You don't necessarily have to be like, yeah, I can't even read a sentence. You're allowed to read a certain percentage of the book to create content from. I rarely buy deluxe editions, says Rob V. If I want DLC down the road, I'll pay for it when it comes out. Now, I did buy deluxe for Baldur's Gate 3 and Lies of P for the early access because an extra 10 or 20 bucks is not too bad. Yeah, the early access conversation is like, it's a whole nother... That's a whole other conversation. Double check with Omar. I think it's a function of time. Yeah. You can't replace the book would be the issue. You know? You can't be like, yeah, I just read that whole chapter. Tomorrow we'll read chapter 2. You can't. I don't think you can do that. And even then, I don't think you could do like an entire chapter and be like, yeah, check out the rest of the book. The book is great. They probably would let it slide because you're promoting their book, but in general, you're going to get bought for that kind of thing. Yeah, did you guys see in the show open? So the question about why they went with why they went with first person versus third person was because of immersion. He said that they really wanted you to feel close to the world of Pandora. And I was like, I hear you, brother, but have you thought about this? That you're wrong. Have you thought about the fact that you're wrong? Because Horizon Forbidden West, especially in Burning Shores, is one of the best-looking games on the PlayStation 5. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best-looking games on the PlayStation 5. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the best-looking games. They're all third-person, and their environments are highly praised. They're beautiful. They're lush. They're awesome. It's like, I get it. I get it. He was like, you're more immersed. You're closer to the environments. He says it was never even a consideration. And I was like, what? You guys never even thought about it? You never thought it's a beautiful world with big, really giant, tall, iconic characters? Let's make them look at a gun the whole time? Or a bow and arrow the whole time? I was like, what? Like I said, I was like, I hear what you're saying, but have you considered that you're wrong? Like, that's not true. I don't need to be in first person to appreciate the beautiful world that you've designed. Some of the best looking games available right now are third person. It was like 14 years, and then because the death of Ottobour plus X years, and now corporations and estates, it got messy. Like nothing enters public domain anymore. Oh, yeah, that's not surprising, Eugene. Now that you're saying that, I thought about that the other day. I was like, shouldn't there just be a steady trickle of public domain movies and books? And I thought about that, and I thought, it's probably because everything gets gobbled up by the networks, everything gets gobbled up by trusts, and nothing will enter public domain anymore. Mickey Mouse is supposed to be pretty soon, and Disney will F with copyright law again to ensure that it doesn't. Yeah. Such a shame. I was even thinking about that. My wife and I are rewatching Twilight Zone, and I've got so many things I want to say. I'm like, man, there's just so much rich anthropological assumptions and like epistemological, like it's rich. It's very rich with just, man, people assumed and thought very differently back then. It's cool. Like, it's neat, but it's also like, yeah, that's a whole other thing I want to do. No, I have too many ideas. Like I said that to my wife last night. I was like, what do you think about an entire channel or content based on the Twilight Zone? Like, just go through every episode and like break down and analyze it. The worldview, the presuppositions, the assumptions. Like, it represents a moment in time. It's one of the most prolific creators, Rod Serling. Who started this? I started this. I'm sorry. Super Googly with a 20 spot says, I automatically rule out first-person games no matter how good they are. I didn't touch Cyberpunk because it is first-person. I get dizzy playing them. You know what's interesting? I was going to bring up Cyberpunk. Thank you for the 10 spot. I was going to bring up Cyberpunk because I said, some of the best-looking games right now, are third-person. But Cyberpunk has been hailed as one of the best-looking games right now, especially if you put it on a PC, high-end PC, and you turn all the pretty stuff on, right? Well, you can be third-person like when you're on a bike. And I remember playing it and thinking, they really could probably have done third-person, especially with melee builds, because you're jumping around and you're swinging swords or like a hammer and stuff like that. But I just think that the way they built the FOV and the shooting mechanics and the way the AI, I don't know if it would work. I do think that's a game where they could consider trying it, though, especially considering some of the builds are completely non-gun based. I think it'd get a little awkward for the guns. It just would, because the guns look and feel so much better since they made all the updates. It just does. The game feels fantastic in first person, I think. The original ideas of copyright law have been so ruined and twisted. It no longer serves the public interest it was intended to. It serves moneyed interests, and that was not the purpose or the intent. It's such a bummer because you could create really, really cool and interesting content with old stuff. There's so much old stuff out there. Like I would actually go down right now and tell you that the Twilight Zone's like one of my favorite shows of all time because it's just so prolific and creative. I just love it. I really do. Every episode I'm like, my gosh, like, they're so creative. I think out of 3 seasons, there's been like 2 episodes that I was like, that was kind of a stinker. They don't have any third-person mods for Cyberpunk? I'm Not sure, but if they do, that doesn't really help out the people on console. Guys, if you've never been here before, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can talk in my chat. Smash that like button. Let's set our sights on 300 likes. We're halfway there to 25 members. I will owe you more members. We have an upload today that we'll be going to in about an hour about Wolverine. I don't know what's going on there, but I may have been wrong about that game. You guys will have to check out that upload later. We'll see. We'll see what's happening. Twilight the movies? I said Twilight Zone, Abe. I prefer third person. Sekiro, Elden Ring, God of War, Ratchet, Zero Dawn. All these games are really immersive. And here's the thing about Avatar Frontiers of Pandora gameplay. It is third person when you're flying around. CD Projekt Red doesn't regret making Cyberpunk first person, but has yet to decide on Cyberpunk 2. Sasko continued. I wanted to say that the first-person perspective is the main characteristic for Cyberpunk, and its perception by the players, too. It's also noticeably different from The Witcher, and this helped us to craft the product identity. I was going to say that with all of the augmentation and all of the abilities, I think it's really important that you're in the head of the player in Cyberpunk. If you start tripping out, when you start seeing Johnny Silverhand, that doesn't necessarily work as well when you're in third person. It needs to be cerebral. It needs to feel like it's me. I would say, but then I think of Hellblade. I'm literally arguing with myself. Hellblade, through audio design and brilliant artistry, gives you the experience of Psycho. I wonder what Hellblade would feel like in first person, though. It'd be terrible because of the melee. I hate melee combat in first person, but moving through that world in first person with Melina Juergens in your ear, like doing all of the psychosis work and the voices work, golly goodness, it'd be good. But yeah, I don't necessarily think you have to be first person for those things to work. I think that any game, as long as you do excellent work, you can give the person an immersive, cerebral, almost psychological experience. I believe Hellblade pulled that off rather well. It's my all-time favorite game. I think it is one of the best games ever made. I think it's the closest to art. Gaming as an art form, I think, is the closest we have, I believe, in Hellblade. It's the closest to perfection in a game I think I've ever experienced. Skatinator with a gifted member. Thank you so much, Skatinator. This guy always making me, just this avatar. I've said this before. Just that avatar makes me feel good. He's just smiling, you know? He's just smiling, and I love it. Thanks for being here, dude. I love the positivity. You guys are the best. You're just having a good time, you know? I wanted to see a bigger version of the picture. What's going on with you? Oh, you got clothespins in your beard. That's funny. Disagree, no path tracing in Hellblade. Yeah, there's no path tracing on your face either, Zubair, but we let you hang out. That was mean, but I had... That was mean, but yeah, it had to be said. It had to be said. Abe with a gifted member. Thank you guys so much. Getting a little member train going here, guys. Hop on, choo-choo, halfway to 25. You guys could chisel away at that big member goal. Days like today, wink, wink, are great days to gift members. Wink, wink. We don't have a bunch of padding of people that we don't want in the member pool. Wink, wink. Days where it's primarily just us. These are really good days to go crazy. There's a gifted member from Whiskey Neat. Don't go crazy on the days where there's an extra 200 people who hate me and love a platform or love a console. Like, thank you, Whiskey Neat. Gifted a member. It goes to Arsenite. My face has amazing path tracing. The sun does full resolution with infinite bounces. Yeah, it's not surprising stuff bounces off of you, Zubair. I'm sorry. I am sorry. That felt easy and unavoidable, and it's your fault. Zubair, stop arguing about path tracing and check your Discord DM, says Eugene. We need a Lono Wink emote. We do. Lone Wolf says, there are only 2 games in my top 10 of all time that are first person or have first person mode. Really? That's interesting. I wonder if that would be true of me as well. You know, I wonder. Eugene says, wow, fat shaming. Zubair says, it's a survival mechanism. That's right. That's right. I'm rubber, you're glue. Is that how it works? Borderlands 2 and Fallout. Yeah, I think in my top 10, I don't know if I might put Borderlands 2 there. I might. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I have a hard time picking like a top anything list. I usually like to say, these are just my all-time favorite games. You know what I mean? Love being here in this community. Glad I'm in a situation I can gift more members. Skatinator, I appreciate that. If you guys have fallen on hard times and you can't gift a member or become a member, what you can do is you can smash the like button. That is totally free. We could easily get 70 more people to smack that like button. So do that if you haven't already. So when Zubair says something, you apologize for roasting somebody. But when I say something, I get strangled. I see how it is. It's different versions of love, Murph. You know this, you know? I'm just saying that in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, third person would have made perfectly good sense. It's an open world action adventure game. I'll be honest with you. When he said it was all about immersion, do you know what I thought? I thought the real reason that y'all did this is because it's what's familiar to you. You guys basically said, open world game with lots of stuff to do. We've done that before. Far Cry 3, 4, 5, and 6. Far Cry 3, 4, 5, and 6. You know, this is not a new concept to us. Let's go with what is familiar. What's good, Thrifty? Let's go with what is familiar. You know? And I think that was the primary driver. Was that they knew they could create an open world with enemies and outposts and missions and things for you to do, and it would just be more familiar to them to say, we've done this before, man. You know? Now, somebody's going to push back and be like, well, what about Assassin's Creed? Sure, but it's very clear this game borrows from Far Cry. You know? And now he's king-shaming. Shut up, Eugene. When Eugene's not super interested in the topic, he is absolutely a rogue in chat, right? An agent on your team has gone rogue. You know? It's like, gee, many Christmas, bro. I don't have a preference of first or third person, just as long as the gameplay complements the perspective. Skatinator gifts another member. Thanks so much. He's like, come on, boys. Let's keep the member train going. Don't let the members drop off the top of the chat. That's my man right there. Thank you, Skatinator. And it goes to Jordan. If you guys got a gifted membership today, be sure to thank the people that are generously gifting. You might even get one from me. Every 25, I give 5. I'll be doing that later in the premiere. That's a good reason to stick around. I mean, they made Watch Dogs, and that's third person. Right. I know people are going to push back and be like, well, Assassin's Creed, third person. Watch Dogs is third person. I think that they knew Avatar was going to be a game where you were using guns and bows and arrows and not really be melee based, and they thought, we've made games like that. We've made a bunch of Far Cries. Let's make it like Far Cry. It's a Far Cry skin. Of course, it's going to be first person. Thrifty says, Avatar would have been amazing as a third person. This is going to be like Starfield, Fallout in Space. Avatar will be Far Cry with oversized Smurfs. Do we know how this game looks if you turned it up to 11 on PC? The Insider Gaming seemed to indicate that it looked really, really pretty on PC. Abe jumps on the member train. That's a layup to 15 out of 25, tempting somebody to drop a 10 bomb. Thank you so much, Abe, for doing that. Sneaky Wolf hits another one in. Thank you so much, taking us to 16. And for some reason, did I double tap it? Let's try this again. I might have double tapped the member and it's just like stuck there. There it goes. Thank you, Sneaky Wolf. €80 for a Far Cry copycat with a season pass. AAA Gaming is doomed. You think AAA Gaming is doomed? Did you pay any attention to the Game Award nominations this week? AAA Gaming has never been better. What you talking about? And you haven't played it yet. How do you know it's a Far Cry copycat? Is it? It could be. Let's say that it is. Right? And a 10 bomb! From Abe, and it's the Agents of Chaos. Abe takes us all the way past 25 in a single swoop. Thank you so much, Abe, for doing that. You are the best. Not only did you drop the 10 bomb, Agent of Chaos, man, knocking us past 25 like nothing, and Swoozy comes in and keeps the member train going. I told you guys, today is a great day to go crazy like this. You know, we can create a silver lining. When the viewership's a teeny bit lower, that means you've got our loyal crew here. That's a really good day to go nuts. And it goes to Peter Parker. Peter Parker just got gifted a membership, so we are in good hands now. AAA Gaming is nowhere near doomed. AAA Gaming has never been better. Those are bold words. How are those bold words? Have you ever seen a year like 2023 in the last like 10 or 15 years where virtually every platform, every publisher is cranking out greatness? In a year where Stonespire gifts a member and Skatinator drops a 5 bomb and takes us to 33 members on the day. It's going to be a big one. It certainly feels that way. Thank you so much, Skatinator and Stonespire. Appreciate you guys so much. When have we had this many games? Like in a year where a game like Hogwarts doesn't get any nominations, right? I don't want to get into that debate again. I don't. I believe Hogwarts deserved a couple, but not a ton. Why? It got outpaced. It really did. And that's a great game. That's a very good game. Huge bangers before 2014 and 2015. You got to go back pretty far to find a year as strong as this. You really do. You really do. We have massive commercial successes, great critical acclaim titles this year in a pace that we haven't seen in a long time. Quintar with a 10 bomb jumps on top and takes us to 43. Thank you so much, Quintar. You're the best. Quintar's gone crazy some months, so you guys better watch out. There are people coming out of the shadows right now dropping member bombs on chat. Make sure and say thank you to the generous people. We are very, very close to me owing you guys 10 members. Parasito says, I think we can agree that the general direction of gaming is gloomy, with microtransactions, always online, crappy live services, and a giant gap between good and bad. And the reason this year feels special is because of the amount that broke the mold by delivering truly great games simply as games instead as money printers. Let me take that action, Paris, because you're really wrong, and that's not common for you. You're a pretty smart guy, but you are extremely wrong. And let me tell you why. This can feel like a comforting blanket. You're gonna feel like everything's gonna be okay when I get done telling you how wrong you are. Here's why you're wrong. This year, the commercial success of single-player games like Spider-Man, Mario, even AC Mirage was in third place behind Mario and Spider-Man. Okay? And games like Baldur's Gate 3. I know you can play Baldur's Gate 3 with other people, but it very much is a more traditional, old-style game. It is not some newfangled, microtransaction-injected live service game, okay? I believe this year will have an impact on gaming for the next 5 to 10 years. Because I believe right now, developers and publishers are saying, wait a minute, we don't need to do all of this. We don't need to do all this. I think you're wrong because the commercial success this year speaks for itself. It will have an impact on the industry. I think the live service bubble is already starting to stretch and it's close to bursting, and you're going to see a lot of companies shift in the direction of No. We can do ongoing content, but we can't do this live service thing. It isn't going to work. There's too many games. There's not enough players. We will not be able to capture and keep an audience. If you make a game that depends upon keeping the funnel full of players, you will fail. There's not going to be that many live service games that come out in the traditional format of got to keep them playing, do something every week, do a season, do a battle pass, keep them coming back. I believe so many games are going to have to depart from that format. Alan Wake 2's visuals are better than Horizon Forbidden West, but the comparison isn't fair. It's never fair to compare visuals of a survivor horror game to any other genre. Right, because they scale everything down. The game benefits so much from smaller scale and smaller environments. Right. Jordan Hederman with 5 months. Thanks for the gifted, Quintar. Thank you guys so much for the gifteds today. Let's keep it going. There is 25 members just at the top of the chat right now. You guys are keeping the member train nice and strong. There was a developer that just cut 30% of staff because the market doesn't support new IP. Very interesting take. What are your thoughts? I believe the market does support new IP. I believe we've seen evidence of this within the indie games. I think the challenge is the market's just really saturated. You have breakout indie titles like Death's Door. It sold 100,000 copies its first week. It's now on tons of other platforms. We've had other really good breakout indies. We've had other really good breakouts, smaller studios. Taking risks is risky. Right. Yeah, Liza P was a brand new IP. Hi-Fi Rush was a brand new IP. They got nominated. They've been highly praised. Now I would not necessarily say that some of the titles that broke out that were new IP were quote unquote indie. They were smaller studios with traditional funding. But I don't think that the industry is showing. I don't think the industry is showing us that new IP can't make it. Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, I know it's leaning on Harry Potter, but that was brand new. Now, yes, getting to leverage a license and a well-known IP is a huge advantage, but it also is just as risky because people are going to come to your game and shred it if it's not any good. Starfield was new IP. Yeah. If Starfield's name was Fallout 5, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. If the final move for, apocalyptic response was to leave planet Earth, that gives you your story that gives you your context and story for Starfield. But yeah, Starfield was a new IP. It's like when people say Elden Ring was a new IP. I have the same attitude. I'm like, yeah, kind of. Everything inside the game is Dark Souls except for the size of the world, but sure, Elden Ring's a new IP. If another Borderlands game comes out, they don't call it Borderlands, and it looks and smells and operates just like Borderlands, but they decide to call it like, I don't know, Gun Hunter. No one's going to be like, dude, Gun Hunter's a brand new IP. We'd be like, yeah, it's basically Borderlands 4, but okay. I love the Assassin's Creed franchise, but there is no AC game that is going to beat out Spider-Man 2. Well, I think the mistake would be to think that it has to. AC Mirage is in third place last month commercially behind Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, Tiny Tina is a new IP. Like, you see what I'm saying? Come on. I'm not knocking Starfield. I'm being consistent. Starfield, Elden Ring, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Like, yes, these are new IPs, but it looks and smells exactly like the previous games they built. So is it really a new IP? They've slapped a different name on it. To use your own words, I think we're passing in the night. The lion's share of games that have come out in the last 5 years have set us on a trajectory following the big publishers saying that nobody wants to play single-player or story games anymore. Everyone ran towards microtransactions and live games. Yes, we have large studios putting out games like God of War and Horizon, but we have still had the majority of releases seem to be more of a financially beneficial release instead of being a creative expression just to make a good game and to have the money flow. That's why I'm saying this year broke the mold. Hogwarts Legacy, Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man ETC are all in the completely opposite direction from the quality through quantity mentality that most publishers and developers apparently adopted a few years ago. They go where the money is, Paris. And that's why this year will change things. You're right, everybody ran towards microtransactions and live service games. Where are all those games now, Paris? Are they commercially successful or are they dead in the water? One of the common arguments about live service games and why they're terrible is people will point to the cemetery of dead live service games. Failed live service games. And I always say, hey, there's successful ones over here, but commonly people will do that. They will trot out the corpses of all these live service games. So what do you think these studios and developers are going to do when they look at this year's commercial results? What do you think they're going to conclude? They're going to conclude, we may have made a tactical error here. We don't necessarily have to chase the always online, over monetized, season based, battle pass based game. Like, we don't necessarily have to do that. I'm telling you, they're going to go where the money is. And this year proves gamers respond to excellence. Gamers will buy single-player games if they're good. Gamers are tired of a game that they feel like is a second job. The game companies will go where the money is. We, as a consumer base, spoke loud and clear this year. Now, yes, you could point to the sports games and the battle royales and be like, look how much money they print. Sure, but look at what has happened to every game that has tried to chase that feeling. All these games that have tried to chase that feeling. Eugene's got a picture here of the top 20 games year to date. 1, Hogwarts Legacy, Legend of Zelda, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Jedi Survivor, Starfield, Resident Evil 4, Dead Island 2, Final Fantasy 16, Elden Ring, Armored Core, that's 10, Remnant 2, Dead Space. 12 out of the 20. Remnant 2 is co-op? Sure, but we would say that Remnant 2 doesn't represent the new push for like over-monetized trash live serves. 12 out of the top 20 games aren't falling into that. Well, let's just take Remnant 2 off and keep it really pure. 11 out of the 20. That's what they call a majority. That's more than 50%. More than 50% of the top earning games year to date are not live service, are not over monetized. This idea that like, oh, the trajectory of the industry and the sky is falling and everything's terrible. I'm not saying Paris is doing that. There are YouTubers selling you that story, and it isn't true. Elden Ring is from last year, though. Robert, you didn't mean to, but you just made my point even stronger. It didn't even come out this year. And it's in the top charts for year-to-date earnings. You just inadvertently made my point stronger. It likely had an explosion this year because of Armored Core in anticipation of the DLC, would be my assumption. And they did that update with the PvP stuff. That might have helped it too. I don't know. A game that didn't even launch this year is charting. That's a cell phone. I don't know if it was meant to be a cell phone. Maybe he's just clarifying. Maybe he's agreeing with us. He might be agreeing with us. He's like, Elden Ring's from last year. You're right. And it's in the top 20. This notion that the industry is going to hell in a handbasket, I don't see evidence of that. I see the exact opposite. Publishers and developers are looking at those revenue reports and saying, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we chasing Battle Pass, Season Pass, trash? Why are we doing that? We could make an amazing single-player game and make tons of money. Now, you thought AC was boring. It doesn't matter. Last month, it was in third place behind Mario and Spider-Man. That's standing tall. That's an established IP with a loyal fan base. Everybody wants to poo-poo Ubisoft. They dropped a small, less expensive version of Assassin's Creed, and they're in third place behind two of the biggest games this year. Mario and Spider-Man 2 are two of the biggest games this year. It's in third place behind them. That's not bad. It's up on the podium holding a bronze medal in a month with Spider-Man and Mario. That's pretty dadgum good, and it wasn't even full price. What was it, like $50? And it's still charted? I think I'm not putting enough emphasis on the past year breaking the mold or misrepresenting my opinion. Public mentality is slow boat to turn, but the past year is putting in the work to do that. Right. Maybe I misunderstood you, Paris, because you said, we're on this trajectory of live service and microtransactions. Maybe we're in agreement that I believe that trajectory has been disrupted this year. Like a torpedo in the side of the boat, all these companies are like, what are we doing? The gaming community is speaking loud and clear with their wallets. 11 out of the top 20 games this year are not live service microtransaction ongoing games. They're single player games. One of them didn't even release this year, and it's still in the charts. People buy it and didn't like it. Third place for continued play or purchase. That's what you're saying, Paris? Okay. What do you mean people didn't like it? AC Mirage has a 77 on Metacritic from the critics and a 7.5 from the users. That's not, to me, people didn't like it. Not a terrible game, not an award-winning game. That's just a good game. And also, the user scores are going to be split on a game like Assassin's Creed Mirage because, let's be honest, they went with a style that a lot of people probably thought, dude, I'm going to love this. And then they ended up not loving it. It has a 76 on OpenCritic. That's not bad, dude. That's not people not loving it. And I wasn't arguing that the money that it generated meant people liked it. I was arguing business perspective this entire time. Invoking what people think about the game is kind of superfluous to the discussion. I'm saying businesses are going to look at the sales reports and say, what in the world are we doing? Assassin's Creed pushed out a more stripped down version of itself for $50 and it's in third place behind Spider-Man and Super Mario? What are we doing? We're chasing the wrong thing. We have misfired. Fortnite has led us astray. Everybody's trying to basically sprinkle Fortnite into their game because they think that golden goose is going to lay eggs for them. And it isn't. It isn't. Top-selling games is a substantially different argument when you factor in live games with battle passes and microtransactions. Right. And I think that's the question, Paris. Are companies going to continue to see the potential money of a live service game? Because the potential money of a live service game far exceeds the sales that we're talking about. My point was, there is a cemetery of live service games that are dead and failed. And companies might look at that and say, this is a very, very bad path to go. Why don't we just make really, really good single player or even co-op multiplayer style games like Baldur's Gate 3 or like Remnant 2? You don't need to build this Destiny replacer or this Fortnite copycat. You don't need to do that. You can make plenty of money, be commercially successful, fund your next project, keep the doors open, keep the shareholders happy. You can do all of that without chasing that live service feeling. Now, I've continued to say that I believe live service will grow in its prominence and its presence, but I've also recently said it's got to evolve. Every game can't come out with a season pass. Every game can't come out and demand that you just constantly play it, and constantly come back, and constantly log in. That's not going to work anymore. You burned people out. You took the industry and you wrung it out like a rag. And everyone's like, okay, if it looks like, smells like, talks like a game where I got to keep coming back week to week or I'm going to miss out or there's a battle pass, I'm not playing it. There are plenty of people like that now. They have this strong aversion to these types of games. And I think that's a good thing to a certain extent. Why? Because it's going to make these companies dig a little deeper and get a little bit more creative. You want to get me to come back to your game in 2 or 3 months? You want to get me to come back and play your Avatar Frontiers of Pandora DLC next year? You want me to come back? It better be good, or I'm not going to pay any attention to it. Good, fast, cheap, pick 2. Right. The whole mantra of, when you go to Walmart, you're getting things convenient and at a low cost, but you're not going to be getting the good value, right? You sacrifice the value for the convenience and the price. If you want it to be convenient, then and you want it to have good value, the price is going to go up. You need me to make this fast and convenient, but also of high quality and caliber. It ain't going to be cheap. Like, you lose cheap. That axiom reigns true, all of the time. I think Helldivers has a big opportunity to grow a fan base now that Bungie has delayed their game to June. I think the biggest problem with a game like Helldivers is you won't feel tethered to it. It's going to feel arcadey and fun and mission-based, and that's great. But I think that's really, really hard. I think it's extremely hard to get people to come back to. And the reason I think it's hard to get people to come back to is they don't feel tethered to the game. They're not in the game. They don't have a character in the game. They come and they like control a character and they blow stuff up and they shoot stuff with their buddies, and then that take it or leave it, dude. As soon as their friends get bored or they get bored, they ain't coming back. Why? They don't exist in the game. That's going to be Helldivers' biggest challenge, is it's going to feel very, very throwaway. If you want me to keep coming back to a game like that, I got to create a character. I got to earn things to make my character cooler, stronger, better, so that my guy looks awesome. So that, dude, next week, if we come back and play again, I'm going to get some more cool stuff. We're not done yet. There's more to do. My character is good, but he's not great yet. If there is not that investment catalyst tether point, then I'm not attached to your game. Your game is no different than Mario Party at that point. It's a fun game to play with my buddies, but I'm not in the game. I'm just controlling a character in the game as a means of entertainment. I have not entered into the game in a cerebral or psychological way. There's no mental tether at all. Now, when you make a character in a game like New World or World of Warcraft or even Diablo, and you see your character constantly, and you pull open the menu, and you're getting loot, and you're changing things, and you're stronger, and you look cooler. All of those things, they tether your brain to the game. You feel as if a part of you is out there in it. That's something that, Destiny does rather well. People feel some weird semblance of loyalty to their character and their class and the world and the activities. Now, they've lost people. They have. But I went and believed delay rumors. Cheers, chat. Bungie didn't delay their game until June. Internally, according to everything we've read, internally it was delayed. They just haven't publicly announced it yet. It's possible they're waiting to do that because they didn't want to do like double whammy bad news. Like, haha! We laid people off and we're pretty toxic about it. And we also delayed the DLC. I don't think they're going to announce the DLC because they're trying to maximize pre-orders. They already have people canceling pre-orders. I believe that delay is likely coming. Bungie confirmed there is no delay. They say a lot of things. It would not surprise me if that delay still ends up happening. They release a press statement. Again. They're trying to stop the bleeding. They don't want a bunch of people walking away, canceling, and not pre-ordering. So that literally is to establish consumer confidence. It would not surprise me at all if they come back later, once they've procured more pre-orders, once they've received more of the interest from trailers and stuff like that, and say, hey, we do need to bump this back. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. It may not be as significant as a delay as reported by Schreier, but I don't know. My gut tells me that it's still coming. That's just my gut. Now, my gut can be wrong. I could be totally wrong. They could still hold the date. I actually be more concerned about it holding the date versus a delay, if I'm quite honest. Tomorrow is Game Awards? No, it's not. It's in December. It's going to just tick people off more. Maybe, maybe not. There's a large portion of their consumer base that doesn't pay attention at all, and they're the type that will pre-order from a trailer. They're the type that'll pre-order once it's in the game. Once it's promoted in the game, they'll pre-order. And they won't try to go through the means of canceling the pre-order if they announce a delay. So, again, I would be more concerned as a player that they're not delaying it based on everything we heard. If everything we heard is accurate and the internal delay ended up not happening, I would be concerned about, like, okay, well then how are you going to increase the quality? If the interest was waning and you were concerned that it wasn't going to be good enough, what have you been able to do in the meantime while laying off 100 people? So, again, I would be more concerned about the lack of a delay. A delay wouldn't concern me. A delay would make sense of everything that we heard. Agree. I find it more concerning they aren't delaying than when I thought that they were. Right. That's why my gut tells me you'll secure as many pre-orders as possible, knowing a greater percentage will not cancel their pre-orders because they don't pay attention to this kind of stuff, and they're not going to go through the means of doing it. Doc says, hey, what's up, Lono? I'm not going to lie. The live service games that succeed are impressive. I love Apex Legends, but I don't fully know why. I'm not even good at it, but man, that gameplay loop. I'll tell you why you like it, Doc. I think I can sense what it is. You like Titanfall. I don't like Apex Legends, but I'll play Apex Legends for a little bit and I'm like, my gosh, this game feels good. You know? The guns and the sliding and the sounds, I don't know. There's just something there. That's Titanfall, dude. That's that Respawn secret sauce. That's that original Call of Duty crew secret sauce. It's all in there, dude. It's so baked in. You can't even... you don't know what it is. It's like when you taste something really good, and you're like, I don't know what's in this, but this is amazing. And they start listing the ingredients, and you're like, yeah, sure, all that, cool. And you just keep eating. It's that OG crew that built Titanfall. Titanfall's gunplay to this date, I believe, is virtually unmatched. Like the Hall of Fame of first-person shooters. It's like Destiny, Titanfall, Apex. Like, I believe the newer Call of Duties feel really good, even though, reviews are down. Star Wars Respawn FPS is going to hit. I don't know. I don't trust anything Star Wars from this point on because of Disney. Fake gamer talk? Huh? Poor Titanfall 2. Poor Titanfall 2, dude. You always have to do like a daily, let's pour one out daily for freaking Titanfall 2, dude. Just so sad. So sad. Always bums me out to think what that game could have been, dude. Titanfall 2 campaign, probably the best FPS campaign ever made. Yeah, it's still one of the best. Still one of the best. Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, Rocket League, how they keep going. Warframe was close too. I never got into Destiny, but the people that are hooked are hooked. Well, here's what I think's happening, Doc. I actually think there are a lot of live service refugees in the conversation. I think one of the reasons when live service comes up, you hear from people and it's like, dude, did a live service game insult your mother? Like, what's the deal here? Why are you... There's so much animosity. I tell you what they are. They're a live service refugee. They have left a live service game at some point. They have either left Destiny or they have left, a Fortnite or something. They've left something where they just kept playing it. And now they're like, dude, I hate live service games. It's like they got burned. A lot of y'all are Destiny refugees. A lot of y'all are like, I used to play that game all the time. And you twitched when you think about it. So I do think there's a lot of people like that in the conversation. And yeah, people that played EverQuest, people that played World of Warcraft, and they're like, dude, I can't do this anymore. They're a live service refugee. And this is why I think we're going to go through an evolution with live service games where the ongoing content format is going to have to be closer related to what we're seeing in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. It's going to have to be content-driven, not engagement-driven. Do you understand the difference? The difference is if you're going for engagement-driven, and yes, Doc, This has to do with Game Pass. If you're going engagement driven, the content's going to have to hit at a cadence where quality will suffer. Engagement driven format starts to burn people out. It burns out your devs. It burns out the content. If you go content driven, well, then the content has to be really, really good, because engagement driven isn't about delivering excellence. It's about keeping people in the game. Engagement is game. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Engagement is our oxygen, Phil Spencer says, right? You got to keep people engaged. Well, when that's the goal, I think that's when you end up in all of the bad tropes and all the bad trappings of live service games. And the way away from that is a content-driven model. Too hard to sustain engagement-driven? I believe engagement-driven has its trappings. I believe the live service trappings and troubles that we see is analogous to something that Game Pass will face, yes. When you are engagement-driven, the challenge you're going to face is we must keep people in the funnel, which means we must release on time. And I believe that's a threat to quality. Now, this is not a rant about Game Pass. This is more of a that's tangential, but I believe it's related. I believe it's very related. Because the goal is you got to keep people in. The only way to keep people in is you got to keep that content flowing. Now, they have a huge advantage with ABK that they can leverage now. I hope that they leverage it in a way that allows devs to cook. Don't do what you did to Jedi Survivor. Xbox didn't do anything to Jedi Survivor. But Disney made a corporate decision about what? We got to have a Star Wars game out every 6 months. Oh, okay. How the frick are you going to do that? Well, what they're doing is they're stressing cadence over quality. And look what we got. Jedi Survivor is still not in a good state on PC. They finally got it to a passable state on console, and the director left. So, draw a straight line from that to live service. When you are going for engagement model, gotta keep people engaged. Gotta have a season. Gotta have content. Gotta have micros. Gotta have stuff to do. What you're doing is you are inherently thinning out the content's value and its substance, which does what? It folds back and works against itself. You start losing people because they're like, the content just isn't as good anymore, or the content just doesn't hold my interest, or the content feels very copy-paste, or the content feels extremely samey or similar to things I've done in the past. So it starts to fold back on itself. If you go to a content-driven model, as opposed to an engagement-driven model, oh, this is so good, I did not intend to land this plane. What you are doing is you are functioning in an analogous way to the buy-to-play market. We have made this argument many, many times. The buy-to-play market is healthier than a subscription market because the buy-to-play market, the games must be good or they will not sell. There's a reason the commercial charts that we just looked at are topped. They are topped by big, awesome, great single-player games. Why? Because they had to be great or they wouldn't have sold. So if you want your ongoing model to work, you need to draw a straight line analogy from how buy-to-play works. Why? It's content-driven. Why do these games sell so well? Because they're good. They're great. How are you going to get your ongoing content to sell well? It's got to be good. When you're engagement-driven, I'm telling you, you will always sacrifice quality. And then you lose players over time, they get burned out, and now they're like, nope, I don't want to look at another battle pass for the rest of my life. I think I saw Lono's hair stand taller when he got that concept. The minute I connected that analogy, I was like, that's the ticket. You've got to think in the realm of the buy-to-play market, because the buy-to-play market works. It works in every other sector. Create something of value, sell it. Create something of value, sell it. Submodels are plateauing and folding in on themselves. It's why Hulu and Disney are combining forces. Many of these subservices are going to start combining forces. It would not shock me in the least if we see Netflix gobbled up by Amazon or Apple. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. Engagement models fold in on themselves. Content models will work much better. You gotta sell people on the content. Can we talk about content feels very samey argument for a second? You play a game in order to play its loop. If the loop changes, players lose interest. It's not the original game they fell in love with. It's the loop that doesn't change. Players lose interest because they're bored. Is there a middle ground? Yeah, the middle ground is, think about roller coasters, Paris. A roller coaster is, at its core, a roller coaster. But when you go to a really, really good theme park like Cedar Point, the roller coasters are all very different. And that's the mistake people commonly make in live service games, is this roller coaster feels just like the last one I rode. Instead of it being like, well, yeah, it's another roller coaster, but it's completely different than the last one. You see, when you go to Cedar Point, every roller coaster is not big hill, loop-de-loop, big hill, sideways spin corkscrew, get off the ride. If they all did that every time, by the third one, you'd be like, what's the point? They're all the same. But when you get to the third one, you're like, no, this one's different. This one suspends you and you kind of hang, and it's got corkscrews that go like this instead of corkscrews that go like this. It doesn't do the side-by-sides. It doesn't do the loop-de-loops. It doesn't do the really, really big hills. It goes for speed. Parts of it go backwards. Like, that's how content creation within games needs to think. The base level content loop is a roller coaster, but the roller coaster can't be the exact same roller coaster every time. What am I doing? Go to the NPC, okay? Grab the bounties, okay? Go to the activity, okay? Throw the ball, okay? Kill the boss, okay? Open the chest. I've done this before! You can't do that. Eventually, people see behind the curtain, and they're like, I've done this before. It's not another roller coaster. It's the same roller coaster. You just change the color of the paint. Nobody rides their fourth roller coaster at Cedar Point and says, yeah, they're just all just roller coasters. So there is a base level loop. There is a base level content theme or feel. That's not the issue. The issue is when they become so less distinguishable from each other. Familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity breeds contempt. And I'm telling you, this is something live service games are always going to face. I called it... what did I call it recently? These are some of my favorite rants. It was baked in familiarity. It's baked in. So, I'll give you a great example. When I first started playing Spider-Man 2, and we hadn't really unlocked a lot of the moves yet, and I was beating up the Sandman guys, there was this baked-in familiarity. I was like, I've done this before, but what happened? Well, I got the wingsuit, and then I got new abilities, and then I got new gadgets, and then I leveled up the abilities, and then I leveled up the gadgets. So what you did was you took this down here, and you put so much stuff on top of it. They're like, oh, this is awesome. This is new. This is great. And I think that's the problem is that when you come to Destiny for its 7th year, you have so much baked-in familiarity. You're like, oh, yeah, I've seen a boss do that before. Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah, I've thrown a ball before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've stood in a circle and killed ads before. Yep. Yeah, I've taken down a shield before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, that's a champion? Yeah, hang on, let me do this. Like, there's so much baked-in familiarity, they almost run out of... They run out of ways to surprise you. It's like you know what's coming. It's why the raids got beat faster and faster and faster as time went on. It's like, yeah, we already have the Dakota ring, Bungie. Okay, look at Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I want you to imagine playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder after you had been playing Super Mario Bros. Games that were very similar to it. Imagine playing Super Mario Bros. Games that were really similar to it and then diving into Super Mario Bros. Wonder. What do you think would happen? The veneer of the game would be instantly chipped away at. You're like, I've played levels like this recently. You know, the jumping and the flying and the, and the running really quickly and the dodging of the fireballs and look out for the piranha plants. Ooh, and now I'm in water. Like, you would have this baked-in familiarity. But the reason that Mario Wonder hits so hard is you've not really played a Mario game like that in a really long time. So This is the live service. This is the live service foldback that happens. The live service foldback that happens is it's so hard to surprise the player anymore. It's like they've been running around and shooting and throwing grenades and exploding things for 7 years. There's also the challenge of keeping new mechanics and interactions still at a level where inexperienced players can still engage with the content instead of doing quantum physics. Oh, that's just such an excellent point, Parasito. When you get to Ishin in Sekiro, he will break your spirit. Why? You're being required to take everything you've learned in Sekiro, and you got to do it in that mission. Well, the next Sekiro that comes out, if there is a sequel, please let it be a sequel. Sekiro is the greatest FromSoft game ever made. Don't even try to fight me on it. That's a fact. If there is a second Sekiro that comes out, they can't just start with Ishin. Welcome to Sekiro. You got to fight a guy at that level. And you're like, oh, good golly. Like, there's all these things you got to be managing and doing. No, it builds up to that crescendo. And the problem with the live service game is you got new people coming into the funnel all the time, and you can't have activities that are combining all these different threads of, like, institutional gamer knowledge that the hardcore players have, and the new players like, I don't know what the frick all this stuff is. So that's another great point. You almost have to keep things at this approachable level that automatically dumbs things down and dilutes them. You say that because you haven't played Bloodborne? Stop it. This is why the next Metroid will end the world. I don't know if Metroid pulls as hard as Zelda and Mario, though. Oh, we have a rebrand. FYI, this is the new handle from this person, already starting off with slander and defamation. This is not the way. If you come across their content, please be wary. Hold these people accountable. The Game Awards are the biggest farce in all of gaming. It's jury circus. Only fools those who want to be fooled. Oh, yeah. They're doing the Death Stranding thing. Yeah. Yeah, Death Stranding got 10 nominations, and it had an 82. Who was it that had such a great post on that? Was it Nib? I thought Nib absolutely destroyed that narrative. Just showed that, like, the Death Stranding had way more perfect or close to perfects, so mathematically those people were voting for it on lists, and Starfield has less perfects or close to perfects, so there will be less people voting for Starfield. Basic math, right? Nib basically just applied basic math. I know that's hard for the people that think there's a conspiracy theory going on, right? They have to take their socks off to count past 10, but basic math, you can clearly see why Death Stranding would have gotten more nominations than Starfield. Running to Metacritic, Metacritic doesn't matter, but it only matters when you're driving a false narrative. Like, people are always like, Metacritic doesn't matter. But it matters when you're trying to run some narrative that, like, Death Stranding shouldn't have been nominated a bunch when it was nominated. Death Stranding was terrible, most disappointing game I've ever played. Death Stranding is what I would call a polarized game. Wolverine release date. Death Stranding was a polarizing game. Yeah, there it is. Nib95 has a fantastic thread about the Xbox tax, and he completely obliterates the notion that, like, well, Death Stranding got a bunch of nominations and it has a lower score on Metacritic than Starfield. Well, he does actual research and he goes and he shows and he's like, well, yes, according to math and mathematical probability, Death Stranding had way more perfect or close to perfect scores, ergo, more people would have voted for it in the jury process. Starfield has way less. It's more middling. more people gave it a middling average score. Ergo, less people are going to put that game on a list. It's not hard, people. It's just basic arithmetic and averages. This is stuff that, like, you learned at a very young age. Maybe you haven't done it in a long time, but it's basic math. And they only run to Metacritic when it suits their aims. They'll dismiss Metacritic. And you know what's funny? They're arguing that Death Stranding got more nominations than Starfield, therefore the whole thing is a sham. They just inadvertently said that Final Fantasy 16 should be up there instead of Starfield, because you just established that Metacritic scores are the be-all, end-all. Ergo, Starfield has no business being up there anyways, because there's games with higher scores than its 83. So thank you for conceding that Starfield shouldn't be up there for Game of the Year by your own stupid backwards addition of, well, Death Stranding got more than Starfield. Starfield's got a higher score. You know what has a higher score than Starfield? A bunch of other games that aren't up there for Game of the Year. Starfield wouldn't be up there. It wouldn't. Take off Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't care. Starfield wouldn't be up there. There are other games with higher Metacritic scores than Starfield. So Metacritic only matters in those convenient cherry-pick arguments. You just established that Starfield shouldn't be up there by your own arithmetic, by your own math, by your own argumentation, by your own logic. Starfield has no business being up there. You just argued that Final Fantasy 16 should be up there because it has a higher score. I'm fairly certain Hi-Fi Rush has a higher Metacritic score as well. Put it up there. Y'all wanted to throw confetti in the air and have parades for Hi-Fi Rush. A bunch of people that didn't even play it. But y'all wanted to throw confetti in the air and throw parades for Hi-Fi Rush. Now you act like Hi-Fi Rush is nothing. Like, where's Hi-Fi Rush? Why is Hi-Fi Rush? That to me is the clearest sign that so many of these people are not Xbox fans. They're not. Because if they were Xbox fans, they would be celebrating Hi-Fi Rush instead of claiming that Hi-Fi Rush doesn't matter. Starfield got snubbed. Hi-Fi Rush has the same number of nominations as Mario and Zelda, and the fact that you're not celebrating that, you played yourself. You're self-reporting. Because if you were a big Xbox fan, you'd be like, that's freaking awesome. Hi-Fi Rush is up there as many times as Mario and Zelda. You'd be celebrating that. Deluded if you think some 83 game deserves to be up there with games in the 90s. Also, the year that Death Stranding came out wasn't this year. So, this year, if you weren't in the 90s or close to the 90s, good luck. Good luck. It's a different year. 2023 is bonkers crazy. That's why I said in my monologue, I was like, it's not that your game's not good. It just wasn't good enough. It's way harder this year. Imagine trying to place in the Olympics in a year where, like, Usain Bolt wasn't running. There's very different requirements that year to get a gold than when that dude's out there. Boom, he shoots out. And you're like, what happened? The race is over. Yeah, very different year that year. You could go look at the completion times and the run times and be like, well, this was enough to get a gold in this year, but it wasn't enough to get a gold in this year? Yeah, someone's faster. Like, there are better games this year. There are better games this year. What do you want to say? When virtually every game on the Game of the Year podium is above a 90 and you think your 83 deserves to be up there? It's a joke. The whole conversation's a joke. Like I said in the video I posted on Twitter, what these people do is they admit that they don't pay attention to the gaming industry. They're apparently completely in the dark about how many amazing games came out this year. You apparently haven't been paying attention because this has been an amazing year. You know the game. What category is Hi-Fi Rush winning? It's an easy game to have lose. No one will complain. You can't even guarantee it'll win Best Music, and it's a rhythm game. Yeah, because Best Music's not about music implementation within the mechanics of the game. It could also be about the original score being excellently written. Like, Final Fantasy 16 score is fantastic. It's at the level of like a Hans Zimmer or a John Williams score in a movie. That deserves recognition and awards. And let me tell you something, Doc. You know what's going to happen to Spider-Man? Spider-Man 2 is going to be lucky to walk away with a single award. Why? Because the competition's crazy. I'll say it. Spider-Man 2 has 7 nominations. If it walks away with more than 1, I'll be shocked because of the categories that it's in and the games it's going up against. It is insanely tough this year. Spider-Man 2 is going to win it's going to lose a bunch of times to Baldur's Gate and Zelda. A bunch of times that's going to happen. We're going to be like, come on, Spider-Man, and it's going to go to Baldur's Gate. Come on, Spider-Man, and it's going to go to Zelda. So the same thing could be said about Spider-Man 2, Doc. Is there a PlayStation tax there? When Spidey 2 walks away from the Game Awards with 0 to 1 awards, are we going to say there's a PlayStation tax? If Hi-Fi Rush doesn't get a single award, it's an Xbox tax. If Spider-Man 2 doesn't win a single award, what are we going to say? Better games won. It seems like we have different measurements of why one wins and why one doesn't. That's what it sounds like to me. I love you, Doc, but I'm telling you right now, that's all made up. Hi-Fi Rush doesn't win as an Xbox tax. Spider-Man 2 ain't going to win any of its categories. Maybe sound design. I like this outplay. What's Spider-Man winning? I guarantee it wins 3. No. I don't think so. It's in too many categories with Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda. It's in too many categories with Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda. I'm telling you right now, Spidey's going to walk away and struggle. It's going to struggle. It will. I believe it. And I'm not saying that to knock Spidey. I'm saying the competition this year is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah, Spidey's also in a bunch of categories with Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is getting so much praise. What does it win? I think Spidey 2 might win sound design. Even then, I don't know. It's every category is insane. It's like, picture this way, Doc. It's like every race is going to be like winner by a hair. Like whatever game wins, I feel like it's barely going to edge out the competition. It's a very tough year, with the exception of Game of the Year, which handedly goes to Baldur's Gate 3, and RPG handedly goes to Baldur's Gate 3. All the other categories, I genuinely think it's like neck and neck. And concluding that, Hi-Fi Rush didn't win any of its categories because of an Xbox tax, nobody's going to say that about their favorite game. Final Fantasy 16 didn't win any awards. Yeah, there's a PlayStation tax out here. Final Fantasy 16 had great scores comparatively to like Starfield, even Hogwarts. People keep talking about Hogwarts, and it's like, if Final Fantasy 16 charted higher than Hogwarts with reviews, Hi-Fi Rush charted higher. I'm telling you right now, games that lose this year are going to lose because it's insanely competitive. Look at Game of the Year. Is anybody going to walk away from Game of the Year and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my game didn't win? No, they're going to say, it was a tough year, bro. It was a tough year. Baldur's Gate 3, Zelda, Super Mario, Alan Wake 2, Jiminy Christmas, what a year. How do you win in a year like that? It's like the Olympics. Only one person's getting the gold, and everybody running is the best. The winner and the loser is like, milliseconds sometimes in Olympic races. It doesn't mean the losers are bad. It doesn't mean there's some bias. It doesn't mean there's some tax. I mean, in some of those sports, it might feel like there's a tax because you're never going to be as fast. You're just never going to be as fast. But that's not the point. The point is, this year, the races are so close, and I think that that's something worth celebrating. We're going to have to push the upload. You got me ranting, Doc. I can't push the upload at noon. The premiere is going to have to go at 12:15 instead. What happens if Resident Evil 4 wins? It won't. It won't win Game of the Year. Not enough people will. The jury process, that's just not possible. It's a mathematical game. And at that point, not enough outlets will vote RE4. They just won't. They won't. This is the thing. I'm totally fine, and I would even concede that we should maybe consider having a remake category. I was watching your brother's podcast when I was printing off coffee labels last night, and P was talking with some people. Porter Rock was asking guys what they thought, and I don't know who said it, but one of them was like, I said this when Resident Evil 2 Remake was up there, and I'm going to say it again. We need to have a remake category. I don't agree with that. because you're not always going to have enough people to even put in the dadgum category. What are you going to do when there's only like 2 or 3 remakes? They're just automatically up there. And then a game like Resident Evil just like automatically wins. That would be such a pointless award. It would be pointless. So I'm telling you, putting remakes up there is okay when it's been that long and the work is at that caliber. It was 18 years ago. The caliber of the game is insane. I understand where people are coming from. I just simply don't agree with their position. I get it. I resonate with it. Yep. I get it, man. This year was so crazy. It does feel kind of backwards to have a remake up there when so many good games came out. But that game achieved such a high level of excellence and critical acclaim. To not nominate it also feels bad as well. It also feels bad. Best new IP category. Don't they do one like that? Or that's indies. They do what? Best debut indie? Best new game? Maybe best new IP. That could be a category as well. We also need a small studio category. The indie category is all messed up. It's all messed up. The indie category is basically small studios, and some of them have tons of funding, and it just doesn't make any sense. 12:15 tomorrow, redirect. I could see brand's new IP being a category, because then what that would do is that would be like, hey, we didn't get Game of the Year, but we got Best New IP, because guess what? Best New IP would look really different. Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Legend of Zelda 2, basically, it's a sequel. Super Mario Brothers 25. Every game in the Game of the Year running are any of them new IPs? The new IP category could be pretty freaking awesome. It could be. Is Baldur's Gate 3 technically indie? They don't have traditional publisher relationships, so yes, at some level they are. Yeah, at some level they are. It was basically like a crowd-funded project to a certain degree. Yeah, I don't think we disqualify remakes. I don't get that. RE4 got a nom because voters thought it was one of the 6 best games this year. Right, if you achieve that with a remake and you convince people that this is one of the best games this year, not nominating that just feels absolutely backwards. What would new IP be this year, just hypothetically? Hi-Fi Rush would have been up there without question. Hogwarts Legacy would have been up there without question. I don't know. I think that would be a really, really fun category. I really do. I think it'd be a fun new category. Yeah, best new IP would be really fun. Starfield probably would have got a nom. Liza P., Hi-Fi Rush. Starfield. Remnant 2 wouldn't be a new IP. Hogwarts Legacy is not a new IP. Yeah, it is. There's no games called that. Just because it's built on Harry Potter, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, when it came out, would be considered a new IP. You wouldn't consider Jedi Fallen Order a new IP just because it's built in the Star Wars universe? That doesn't make any sense. New IPs are radioactive to consumers. Forspoken. Yeah, maybe Forspoken would be up there. I'm looking. I think new IP would be a great category. I really do. And I do. I think Starfield would have been up there. The IP is Harry Potter. I don't think you guys understand that building a brand new game that is in an existing universe doesn't mean that the game is not a brand new IP. So is Star Wars Outlaws not a new IP because it's built in Star Wars universe? Hogwarts Legacy and Jedi are cheating. They're still new IPs, though. How many games have we gotten that were terrible, and because they tried to, like, lean on the fact that, like, it's some popular, movie or something? Everybody was super scared when we were going to get a Spider-Man game. Everybody was super scared when we got our first Batman game. You're not going to give those games their flowers simply because it's like, well, it's built in the Batman universe. Well, it's built in, the Spider-Man universe. What the frick? That's almost harder. Making a Star Wars game, making a Harry Potter game, that's actually really difficult. Final Fantasy 16 has nothing to do with the rest of the Final Fantasies. Yeah. The Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3 release date will be announced at the Game Awards. Yeah, we called that from about a mile off. I think that's an easy one to predict. I agree with you. It's a great time to promote it. They'll probably get, a mid-December release. It's a great time to release, dude. Great time to release Baldur's Gate 3. The hype is there. The marketing is there. It's Christmas time. It's a really, really great time. American Arcadia is now available on Steam. Oh, cool. Too many gray areas in that argument. New game doesn't equal new IP. I just don't know. I don't know. It's extremely difficult to make a game like Hogwarts Legacy and to make it really good. And to be like, no, that's not a new IP. Yeah, it is. There is no game before it that they can glean off of. There's nothing. Yeah, if Baldur's Gate was Baldur's Gate 1, would we not call it a new IP? Or would you say, no, it uses the D&D IP, so it's not a new IP? Would we say the same thing? Imagine Baldur's Gate was Baldur's Gate 1. Would we say, not a new IP because it uses the D&D IP? Like, what? What the huh? Guys, could we get 300 likes on this video? We're going to leave in about 5 minutes. We only need 23 more likes. We need 7 more members gifted, or just join as a brand new member, and you can push the goal as well. And I have to gift 10. I will gift these members in the premiere. Today is a great day to gift a ton of members and hit big goals, because when we have smaller turnout, it's the more loyal base, okay? When we gift members on like a big Call of Duty day or something, those aren't the best days to do it. Today's the best day to do it. So you guys have 8 minutes to push the member count. It's a derivative of the IP, but it's also like how we view the Wiz as its own thing. Is it legally and technically a derivative? Yes, but it's viewed as a different work of art altogether. Yeah, I mean, we got our trademark, copyright lawyer in the chat here. Even though it's derivative, it would still be considered a new IP. Jedi Fallen Order was a brand new IP. It's built in the Star Wars universe, sure, but it has nothing before it. Like, no games to be like, yeah, this is a sequel. This is a continuation of these games. Based on your argument, Final Fantasy 16 is a new IP. I mean, no. Not based on my argument. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that a brand new video game in that universe that has not... There are no Star Wars video games called this. There are no Star Wars video games called, Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order with Cal Kestis. Final Fantasy 16 is literally a numbered game within a franchise of video games. So if tomorrow they announced a Warcraft game and it was an action-adventure third-person game, you wouldn't call that a new IP? You'd be like, well, it's built within the Warcraft universe, so it can't be. Girl says, hypothetically, you'd be fine with Hogwarts Legacy in the same category as Horizon Zero Dawn for new IP. Yeah. Yeah, because I actually think they both face unique challenges. When Horizon Zero Dawn came out, it faces the unique challenge of it's got absolutely nothing before it. When you build a game like Hogwarts Legacy, you have the unique challenge of this game could get shredded if it's not a good Harry Potter game. If it's not a good Star Wars game, it'll get shredded. People will rip it to shreds. You know, an Iron Man game, a Superman game, they would face the same level of scrutiny. Catwalk, gifts a member, gets us a little bit closer. 6 more to 50. Thank you so much, Catwalk. We're going to go to the premiere about Wolverine's release date. We're going to go to that premiere in 5 minutes. We've got some pretty good intel that might be pointing at a release date that I completely don't agree with, but we'll see what happens here. I'll spam a link in chat in 5 minutes, but I'll also redirect you. Of course, using existing IPs comes with expectations, Lamau. I don't know why you're laughing at that. That's a unique challenge. Both completely different challenges. Right, but what I'm saying is that's what I would be okay with it. I'd be okay with it. It's like, dude, you're building a game in the Harry Potter universe, man, good luck. You're building a game in a Star Wars universe, man, good luck. Liza P is just Pinocchio. Yeah, Liza P's not a new IP. It's derivative of the story of Pinocchio. Ergo, not a new IP. Do you see how ridiculous this can get? True SSJ Havoc says, I need a membership. Oh, come on, y'all. Let's get this man a membership here at the buzzer. We got 4 minutes left. Can't be a new IP if you need to go to an existing IP owner in order to get the rights to make it, full stop. Okay. Then Liza P's not a new IP. Like, I feel like we are creating a line that isn't sustainable. It just doesn't feel sustainable. It just feels so unfair to be like, Elden Ring would be considered a new IP, Starfield would be considered a new IP, but Lies of P would not, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order would not. That just seems crazy to me. Because Starfield bakes in so much institutional mechanics and systems right from Fallout 4. Elden Ring bakes in so much institutional, pre-baked mechanics right from Dark Souls. But you get to call Elden Ring a new IP and Starfield a new IP, but you wouldn't call Jedi Fallen Order a new IP. That's bonkers to me. Absolutely bonkers. Another gifted member from Po Buddies Nerfect putting us on the doorstep. We just need a 5-bomb to wrap this up. And we're going to go to the premiere in 3 minutes. Po Buddies Nerfect also renews their membership for 14 months, and it's a VIP. And another one from Whiskey Neat. Let's see if we can't get true SSJ Havoc in here. Come on, guys. Let's scramble. And there it is. There's the 5-bomb to take us to 51 from Cristiano Souza. Thank you very much. And it goes to Jay Swiggs, and it goes to Jake and Cameron and Kenneth and Ed Boy and the God of Oryx. Usually true SSJ Havoc's really quick to get one. You guys got 2 minutes to rush it. Omar with the 900 IQ comment. What did Omar say? In a legal context, you guys are exactly right. We're talking about an award category. Liza P didn't need a license for Pinocchio. Oh, so what's the frickin' word? Because it becomes public domain, it's no longer a pre-existing IP. That's ridiculous. Because it's public domain, Pinocchio is no longer a pre-existing IP. Pinocchio! In a bubble, Greg! Like, Pinocchio? Really? You got me passionately saying Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a pre-existing IP, but because it's public domain, it's no longer a pre-existing IP. Ergo, then Liza P is a new IP. This is ridiculous. The lack of a need to go get a license doesn't make it any different. If Star Wars suddenly became public domain, that means every new Star Wars game from that point on is a new IP. Star Wars doesn't exist as an IP if it becomes public domain. That doesn't even make any sense. Legally, I get what you're saying. It's still intellectually property, even if the property itself becomes public domain. We got 60 seconds and we got to go to this freaking video. This is a fun discussion. It is. I think we need a new category. I think we need small studios and we need new IP. And you're all wrong. Jedi Fallen Order would be a new IP. Let's go to this. Let's go to this premiere. Smash like on the way out. You guys are the absolute best. Is Wolverine coming next year? Is it? Is it? I don't think it is, but some people think it is. Let's go to a video that's talking about it.